Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Firestone presentation. Today we're going to be talking about roofs of the future, and we're going to be featuring the latest and greatest membrane in rubber roofing, the FullForce EPDM. My name is Mirza Hodzik. I'm the marketing manager for Firestone Building Products. LeBeau with MJ Building Solutions. They're the Firestone rep firm here in Ontario and Manitoba, and we have a couple of our great reps, tech reps with us today, Steve Shannon and Nader from the technical department. So before we get started with the membrane itself, I'm just going to take a few minutes to tell you a little bit about Firestone. This is actually the Firestone rubber company. We do a few other things besides tires. We've been in the building envelope sector for the last 40 years, focus mostly in commercial roofing with manufacturing of TPO, EPDM, asphalt-based membranes, metal, insulation, and so on. EPDM as a product has been around for quite some time. The expected life cycle of the membrane is a little over 50 years. We've got projects pretty much all over the world, and the membrane is quite versatile. Originally, it was designed to hold water in as a water containment membrane, but it was transitioned to roofing applications in the 70s and the 80s. It's a membrane that works exceptionally well in cold environments as well as tropic, very extreme weather countries. We've got applications pretty much all over the globe. And today, you're going to be seeing the proven EPDM membrane with a new material, with a new adhesive called the FullForce. So with that being said, just going to remind everybody about the durability of the product. Firestone warrants these membranes up to 30 years. We have membranes that have been in the marketplace for over 40. The actual system is extremely to work with. As you can see, they will be building a roof here indoors without much interruption to anybody. And the life cycle cost of the roof is one of the lowest in the marketplace. When it comes to different systems, there's three main ways to install the EPDM membrane. There's a ballasted way, as you can see on the left. In the middle, you have the mechanically attached system. And the premium system is the fully adhered system, where the membrane is left fully exposed to the elements, as it's a UV resistant product. So today you'll be seeing a fully adhered system installation with the latest product. So to tell you about the latest product, LeBeau from MJ Building Envelope.
So today we're here to talk about EPDM FullForce, just recently launched by Firestone Building Product. It's the next generation of peel and stick membrane that is edge to edge and can be applied also in sub-zero temperatures. The demand in the marketplace for simpler roof systems to be installed is based on the manpower that's available out there. We always look for ways to make the roofing system much easier to install. As you can see in this slide, 2 men are installing the membrane, so it could be installed with a very small crew of people. And it's also a very high performance roofing system when you start introducing this membrane in with insulation, and in this particular case, the IsoGuard HD, which is a high compression strength ISO insulation, very lightweight, and 80 to 120 PSI, which is a board that really helps for puncture resistance and a really good stable platform for a roof system. So the challenges that we had with existing peel and stick technology was the old adhesives based on hot melt technologies. They had very limited success in how they worked and could only be done in the summer months. So a very short application window. What was the challenges? Shelf life was another challenge. First generation shelf lives were 6 months. So it made the product very difficult to deal with in our industry. So now with the new systems, we don't have to worry about the same problems that we used to have. Firestone is pretty unique with its offering with the full force EPDM in applications in sub-zero temperatures. There are many manufacturers that do have peel and stick membranes, but are not using the new technology, where the product can only be applied in June, July, August at very best, and anything outside of that window, the product will not stick to the substrate the way it should be. And as you can imagine, with a roofing system and the weather patterns these days, it's very important to have a secure bond into the substrate with the high wind conditions that we get regularly. As you can see now on the slide, just a demonstration of how Firestone's full force EPDM can be installed in a very wide window of temperatures, cold to hot weather. The membrane can be applied in weather as cold as -7 degrees Celsius, which is pretty impressive compared to some of the existing peel and stick membranes. Again, we're looking to install membranes that are very easy to install, no open flame application like you see on many buildings. As some of you may have seen in the news, every year there are fires due to roofing applications, mostly due to propane torches, and with Firestone EPDM full force, there is no need for any open flame torches, reducing the risk for fires and harm to people. It's very quick and easy to install. The product is 4.5 to 5 times faster to install than a typical fully adhered application. No need to deal with bonding adhesives and flash time. Here we can see without the bonding adhesive involved, there's no solvents involved. It's very fast to install, and it requires no primer. So with the installation of the base membrane, there's no need for the application of a primer, a solvent-based primer, or even a non-solvent-based primer. It's just a simple peel and stick it to the substrate. The problem that we had with existing bonding adhesives is it can get quite messy. The flash time for these adhesives can vary depending on if they're solvent-based or water-based adhesives. And there's also a human factor to make sure that the product is applied at the correct rate and that it's mated together correctly. With the full force EPDM, there's no more cans of adhesive to worry about, no more solvents, no more odors. It's virtually an odor-free installation, like we can do this here today without having any odors whatsoever. And with Firestone's superior adhesion to the substrate, we have no issues meeting FM requirements or CSA wind uplift requirements. It's been tested and proven. All these test reports are available whenever you're considering specification for a roof of this type. Again, we're getting away from odors and potential for fires. It's critical at this time and age. All the building owners don't want their tenants to be complaining about odor or even an evacuation for that matter. So with this product, you never have to be worried about those kinds of situations. Again, 0 VOCs, no odors, and also no solvent-based products to dispose of in the environment. It's a very environment-friendly product. Everything can be recyclable. The release liner on the back of the membrane is fully recyclable. So we're also making a contribution towards improving our environment with this particular system. Here we can see how Steve is applying a primer to the membrane. That is the only primer that is really needed in this particular application. So it's perfect for schools, hospitals, occupied buildings where you don't want to disrupt your tenants. This can be done very, very efficiently and very quietly for that matter. And it's also a great platform for any type of installation you might want on there. You may want a rooftop patio deck if you have an apartment building, or even in hospitals. We see a lot more occupied space, green space. You can install a vegetated roof system over top of this membrane without any issues. It's considered actually a root barrier because it's an inorganic membrane. So Firestone's EPDM Full Force bonds to a myriad of different substrates, whether it's insulation, plywood, metal, there's definitely, and concrete. It's not just specifically for insulation. It can stick to just about any substrate that you may have out there. The warranties on this, you can get a full system warranty on this particular system, anywhere from 5 to 20 years. There are other systems out there that can be warranted for up to 30 years. This particular system can be a full system, material, labor, and workmanship for a full 20 years. The material is very standard material available. They're all rolls 10 by 100 feet long, so it makes it easy for our distribution partners or contractors. There's not a whole series of products. It's one product, and makes it a lot simpler for our contractors to use and learn how to use it. So we're being asked if we could recover over an existing roof assembly. This kind of system can be used to recover over an assembly. As with anybody else in the roofing industry, roofing professionals always recommend removing an existing roof to the deck and rebuilding it so you have a good solid platform. But if your budgets wouldn't allow for a full replacement, you could essentially clean up the existing roof surface, install a cover board like this one that you've seen, secure it in place with fasteners or a two-part foam adhesive, and then you could stick the membrane directly over that cover board. So it's definitely a very versatile product that will allow you to recover the roof. The pricing is very competitive. It's very dependent on the roof system. I get asked very often, how much a square foot for my roof? And my first question is, what does your building look like? How many penetrations are there? Where is it located? Site access, the time of year that you need to do it. There's a lot of factors that play into a square foot price of a roof, but definitely it's a competitive assembly. We have some of our largest contractors here in Canada that install Firestone roof systems every day, and we have this particular product where was launched this year. We already have some very large facilities that are going to be where the product is going to be used because it's competitive out there.
We're going to do a little demo here just of the Full Force. Like John was saying, the Full Force doesn't require any adhesive to the insulation. The only spot you're going to need adhesive is on your seam, and it's a primer, and that's just going to cure the membrane, prep it for the secure bond technology to adhere to the next sheet. So I've already got my seam set up and ready to go. One thing you want to make sure is that the primer is nice and dry. It shouldn't look wet. It should look nice and like a matte color. Once it gets to that matte color, it's ready to go. Now, with the Full Force, it comes with 3 liners. So there's going to be a liner for one side, a liner for the other, and then my third liner is going to be for my seam. So that's the one I'm going to peel last. So to start it, I'm going to line it up on my seam. Nader, just jump here. Just bring it over about 3 inches. Okay. Nope, too much. Okay. Yeah, put it back down. Put it back down. Okay, so the easiest process to start this stuff is we're going to fold it back about 5 feet or so. Okay, we'll go halfway. There we go. So you're going to peel it back on a 45-degree angle one way, and then we're going to tuck it in underneath the other side. Then I'm going to peel this one, on a 45, tuck it in on the other side, and then we can roll it in, and it'll leave us 2 tails to pull on the other side. One thing I'm going to mention is when you're installing this product, make sure the boards are already pre-swept. You don't get any fine dust or anything off the boards. You don't want to have anything transferring through. Nader, Nader. So then we're just going to tuck it in underneath. And then roll it in. Keep coming at the same time. Take your hand more down here, Nader, like this. Yeah. So once it's all started, we've got this little tail here. We can just continue to pull this one on a nice low 45-degree angle. Whew. Yikes. Not getting that one out. Then we're going to broom it from the center out to try to get any of the air bubbles and whatnot out of it. A little medium pressure.
So here in this particular application, we're speeding things up. Regularly when you install the membrane on the roof, you would unroll the membrane and let it relax for at least a half hour to make sure that all the built-in stresses have been expanded out so that you can prevent some wrinkling in the membrane. In this case, might have a little bit of trouble because we're just rushing the installation. But as you can see here, even though there was a few slight wrinkles, Steve is working those out with the roller, and there's always a way to get it out. But the important factor is to let the membrane relax at least 30 minutes prior to removing the release film.
Okay, my last step is I'm going to peel off my seam. So obviously I got all the wrinkles out of it before I started with the seaming. Just pull that last release liner. Nice low 45, we're going to rub it out just to kind of get all the air out. Now we're going to seam roll it. So it's a pressure sensitive material, so we're going to make sure all our seams are rolled with a neoprene roller. So just take your hand roller. There are electric rollers out there that are a little faster than this. So once my seam's rolled, I've got an intersecting seam here from a lead sheet from the other side. So anytime the seams intersect, you got to put a T-joint cover. It's just a transition patch. So again, I'm going to put a little bit of primer.
Steve is also applying primer onto the leading edge of the sheet where the full force sealant is going to be applied right at that end of the lap joint. In order to get the sealant at the edge consistently, it's important to have a nice clean edge. So it just requires a quick scrub with the primer. It both cleans and primes the surface for the sealant.
So the other thing I'm going to show you guys, you got different penetrations coming through your roof. You got plumbing stacks, you've got B-vents. Quick little accessory that we have is just our peel and stick pipe boot. So picture a plumbing stack coming through the roof. This goes from 1 inch to 6 inch. I'll cut it at the appropriate line, which is detailed on the side of the boot here. I want a 3-inch line. I'm going to cut it here, slide it over top of my boot. I'm going to mark around. I'm going to prime that area. Then I'm going to peel this liner off, and it'll slide down over the top of the pipe, and it'll stick right to the edge of the roof.
Just wanted to make a comment on the primer that is being used here today. It's the LVOC primer, hence the reason why there's no heavy solvent odors. So this product is also available when you have a very sensitive environment. It's not one of those primers that's going to overwhelm your building.
Once my patch is, my primer is flashed off, I can put my T-joint intersecting patch. I'm going to center it right up on the T. Give it a quick roll. It's all pressure sensitive materials. Give that edge just a quick little prime. And while that's flashing off, so the traditional fully adhered roof, this stuff will install about 4.6 times faster than your traditional bonding adhesive and membrane, where you'd have to adhere the insulation and the membrane, and it's a contact cement where the two meet. So this stuff will install 4.6 times faster than that way. It's got great adhesion at -7 degrees. They say it was built for Canada. I say it was built for Toronto, because anywhere west of Toronto or east of Toronto gets a lot colder than -7 degrees. So to finish off that seam, we've got a sealant. It's called Full Force Sealant, which is just going to finish off that seam so that no moisture or water gets into the seam, so it can cure. And this stuff will stay on that seam forever. If you've primed it, this stuff isn't going to peel off of it. So you're going to lap that seam, and that'll be a done deal with that. So for the pipe boot, it's just got a peel and stick liner on it. Give yourself a little fold like that. You'll slide it down over top of the boot, or of the pipe, sorry. And then you're just gonna keep that on a nice low 45-degree angle. Then you'll give it a roll. And then to finish off the top, you'd put a gear clamp, a pipe clamp on the top of it with some sealant on the top of that to keep any water from wicking down through. So that's how easy it is to do your penetrations. And that's about it. The only thing I got left to do is to apply the full force sealant.
So if any of you have any questions or looking for brochures or product samples, please come see us with the Firestone team at booth 306.
Help if I open it, eh? Didn't cut the tip. Make sure you open your tube before you start.
For large projects, we find our contractors are now all using electric caulking guns. In this particular case, Steve would have some very developed forearms from pumping out all the caulking if he was doing a couple thousand miles of seams. And as you can see, it's a very, very clean roof application. When I first started in this trade 30 plus years ago, there was no such thing as staying clean. So now we're able to stay clean.
So that sealant would go all the way down my seams, but because of my limited time here, and I got to clean it up, I don't want to be full of it. So just kind of showing you guys how it goes on and what it looks like. It will stay nice and shiny like that, and it will dry almost hard. So it won't be like your typical caulking where it's all mushy and spongy. It dries nice and hard.
How's the product changed over the last 20 years? Like if you put on one of these EPDM roofs 20 years ago, what would be the biggest difference?
The biggest difference is the fact that we can simply peel it and stick it on, and with no more seam tape. So there's a lot less adhesives and primers to deal with, which cause a lot more labor. And because the Secure Bond adhesive is installed in a factory setting, we're guaranteed that the right amount of adhesive has been applied on the back of the sheet. So there's less margin for human error.
20 years ago, though, I think maybe the other product, the ballast one, may have been more popular. Is that the case, or?
Yes, 25 years ago, there was a big trend, loosely ballasted assemblies. We called it rock and roll. We lay it all out and put the rubber down and put some rock over it and get it wrapped up. These days we're finding that there's not as much availability with good round riverbed stone, and there's a trend in the industry to have exposed membrane systems because it makes it easier to maintain, and if there is damage to the membrane, it makes it easier to find the issues for the contractors repairing the roofing membrane.
So the key to that is to have it adhered to a substrate so that you isolate any punctures? Is that the key?
Once it's fully adhered to the membrane, to like an IsoGuard HD, if there is a puncture in the membrane, it will stay localized as opposed to spreading throughout the system. There's only so much resilience, but that is indeed something to consider. The fact that it's not ballasted, you don't have to worry about the ballast shifting under heavy windstorms and creating partial blow off of the roof. It's secured on its own without requiring the help of ballast.
There's also been a lot of changes in perimeter securements. So 20 years ago, a lot of the ballasted, they'd all tent off the walls. So there's a whole new system developed to keep that from happening. So throughout the years, they've learned things that worked and what didn't work, and they pretty much got it down to a science now.
And just on that tenting, how do they prevent that? Is it angled?
We have an accessory called an RPF, which is a reinforced perimeter fastening. So that'll go around your entire perimeter, and then it gets fastened 1 foot on center. So that's a stripping that's fastened to the Q deck or the wood deck or whatever you're going to. And the membrane, just like we seamed it here, will actually seam right onto that strip so that when the building expands and contracts, it doesn't pull away from that strip. The strip is fastened to the wall. so it won't pull off the wall.
Great, thank you. Any questions or samples of brochures, please come and see us at booth 306.